Okay, today we're going to be learning about layers, and we're going to be recreating. This is what I call a watch it now make it video. So we're going to be recreating this Houston Astros logo, but we're going to be doing it using layers. So you're going to have multiple layers in your final product, as it may take more than one class period to accomplish. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about some basics in layers to begin with. So this is our layers palette. Over here on the right, you see it says layers right here. And then this is our only layer, layer 1. And you see the eye, that means that layer is visible. If you click the eye, notice our layer is now invisible, and all you see is the little checkerboard pattern. Okay, and if I click it back on, you'll see where the invisible part is and where the visible part of the layer is. So the first thing that we're going to do in order to recreate this logo is we're going to need to create a new layer. So think of layers as invisible pieces of plastic that you can lay on top of this, and you can create things in each of those layers. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. So if you look down here in the bottom right hand corner, down here, I'm going to create a new layer by clicking on this little page with the turned up corner. And you see now I have layer 2. Okay, so now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to my tool palette, and I'm going to get the ellipse tool. So what I did was I just held down on this tool. Yours might be on the rectangle tool, might be on one of the other ones. I'm just going to hold down until I find the ellipse tool. Sorry. The other thing I need to do is I need to get the color. So before I do that, I'm going to sample this color by taking the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to sample the blue color, and then I'm also going to sample, let's go ahead and sample the orange color. Okay, you notice I can flip these back and forth, right? So right now I want the blue on the top and the orange on the back. Okay, now I'm going to get my ellipse tool, okay, and I'm going to create a circle by holding down the shift key. That will force my ellipse to be a circle instead of an ellipse. So by holding down the shift key, now I can draw a circle and I can move that circle now. Let's see if we can make it the same size as our original circle. It's a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to edit, and I'm going to transform the scale or the size of my circle. Okay, I can make it bigger. Okay. So I'm going to hold the shift key down because what I want is I want it to stay bigger in proportion. If I don't hold the shift key down, what's going to happen is I'll be back to an ellipse instead of a perfect circle. So I want my circle to stay good. So I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard, and I'm going to grab the corner of the box, right, so that my circle stays in proportion. Okay, and then I'm going to hit, once I'm made it the right size, I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so now that I'm still on my move tool, I can also use the keyboard arrows. So notice I can just edge it to the right or to the left or up or down. Okay. So now that I have my ellipse where I want it to be, so I can rename this layer. Notice the layer is called ellipse 1. I'm going to come over here and double click on it, and I'm going to call it background. Okay, because that is the furthest back layer of my logo. And then I'm going to make it invisible so I can see my Houston Astros logo again. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to turn it back on because now I want to add this orange line on the inside of my circle. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go to Layer, Style. Okay, before we can do that, we have to rasterize that layer. Okay, so what it is this layer right now is made using math, right? Instead of pixels, right now this is made using a mathematical formula that tells it where to be and what size to be and all that, because right now it is a vector image, not a raster image. So we have to rasterize it. In other words, turn it into dots. So we're going to go over here to layer. And we want to choose rasterize shape. So layer, rasterize shape. Okay, and you notice now it took that little shape that was sitting over here on the layer. It's gone. Okay, so now it is just a rastered layer. Now we can add our we can add to our shape. So under layer, we can go to layer style, and we're going to add a stroke to the layer. And the stroke color we want is this orange over here. So we're going to just pick that orange again. Okay. We want the stroke to be on the inside, not on the outside. So we want it to be on the inside of our layer, of our circle. So now the problem is our circle is actually a little too big. Okay, so we want to make our circle a little bit smaller so that it'll fit here. But before we do that, we want to duplicate it because we still want that all blue circle on the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this one here, and I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm going to take it and drag it down into the new layer icon, and boom, I duplicated it. Okay, so I'm going to go on to this one, and I'm going to turn off. Well, let's turn it back on. I'm going to turn off the effects. No more stroke, no more effect. It's all blue again. Now this one, turn it back on, and you see the orange came back, right? But what I'm going to do to this one is we're going to go back over here again to Edit, Transform, Scale, and we're going to make it smaller. Okay. So we're also up here to make it smaller. Up here at the top, we can change it by changing the amount, the size of it. So let's try making it 95% of the size of the original. Now you notice, look what it did. I changed the width, but I haven't changed the height. So it squeezed it from the sides, but not from the top and the bottom. There, that looks pretty good. Pretty close to the original, right? So we're going to hit enter twice. And there we go. Now if I turn off both of these layers, you can look at the original again. It's pretty close. It's not 100%. So what it is the bevel is too wide on this. So I'm going to go back and just go here to stroke, right? And we're just going to reduce the amount of stroke. Instead of 7, let's make it 5. Oh, that looks much more like the original. So let's turn off both of these layers. Yeah, that's pretty darn close to the original. Okay. So, since now we've made the whole circle, we've made the little orange stroke on the inside. So we can make this inside circle very easily by simply copying our second copy of the background, which I'm going to call inside circle, or maybe let's call it the outer circle. Right? And I'm going to make a copy of outer circle. And just take it back down here to the new layer. And I'm going to call the copy of outer circle inner circle. Just renamed it. Okay. So now inner circle has got to be the same size as the inner circle on layer 1. So what I'm going to do, same thing, come up here to Edit, Transform, Scale, and now we got to make it the same size. I'm holding down the Shift key, right, because I want it. So when I get to the edge of this one, I'm just going to stop when it hits the edge, and I'm going to come up here to the top and grab this one and bring it down. Till they're about the same size. That looks pretty good. Hit enter. Inner circle looks pretty good. Looks almost exactly the same as the outer circle. Okay, let's talk about layer order really quick, and then I'm going to finish this first video. So I turned all my layers back on. Now look at what I can do. I can take inner circle and drop it down here, and notice it disappears. That's because outer circle is bigger than inner circle, and outer circle is now on top of inner circle. So it's basically hiding it. It's in front of it. So I got to put inner circle on top of or in front of outer circle. Okay. So that's how layers work. Each layer has to be in front of another layer. Otherwise, if it's not in front of another layer, that layer will be in front of it, and it will block them out. Okay, so now I'm going to turn off these layers. And we're ready to start the next step of our process. We're going to go ahead and pause on this video before we move on to the next step.